Subscribe to my YouTube channel for deeply emotional, romantic, and mature stories that echo through your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support meaningful storytelling. The rain drummed against the office windows as Emma stared at her computer screen, the cursor blinking mockingly at her. It was past midnight, and the marketing department of Sterling & Associates had emptied hours ago. Everyone except her. Everyone except him. She could hear the faint sound of typing from the corner office, where Daniel Sterling worked behind glass. Walls that seemed to magnify his every movement. Her boss. The man who had unknowingly stolen her sleep for the past 6 months. Not with overtime demands, but with something far more dangerous, the way he looked at her, when he thought she wasn't. Watching Emma pressed her palms against her tired eyes. This was supposed to be her breakthrough year. 28 years old, finally working at one of the city's most prestigious marketing firms. And she was letting herself get distracted by feelings that could destroy everything she'd worked for. But as she glanced toward his office and saw Daniel run his fingers through his dark hair, she knew she was already too far gone. The question that haunted her every night wasn't whether she was attracted to him. That much was painfully obvious. The question was whether the electricity she felt between them was real, or just her lonely heart creating fairy tales in the fluorescent-lit reality of corporate life. What Emma didn't know was that in exactly 3 hours, everything would change. A conversation by the elevator. A shared umbrella in the rain. A moment of vulnerability that would shatter the careful walls they both built around their hearts. And the promotion she'd been dreaming of. It would come with a price neither of them expected to pay. Emma had been Daniel Sterling's marketing coordinator for 8 months, but she could pinpoint the exact moment everything changed. It was during the Henderson campaign presentation, when she'd suggested a complete rebrand that everyone else had called too risky. Daniel had listened, really listened, and then smiled at her in a way that made her forget they were in a room full of people. Brilliant, he'd said. And the word had echoed in her mind for weeks. Now, watching him work through the glass partition, Emma wondered if she'd imagined the warmth in his voice that day. Daniel Sterling was everything she'd admired from afar: intelligent, passionate about his work, and devastatingly handsome in that effortless way that made her pulse quicken whenever he walked into a room. But he was also her boss, and at 34, he carried himself with the kind of confidence that came from building something meaningful from nothing. The typing from his office stopped. Emma quickly looked back at her screen, pretending to review the Morrison account files for the 100th time. She heard his office door open, followed by the soft sound of his footsteps on the carpeted floor. Emma. His voice was gentle, concerned. It's after midnight. What are you still doing here? She looked up, and there he was, standing beside her, desk with his tie loosened and his sleeves rolled up. The sight made her stomach flutter in ways that were completely inappropriate for an office setting. Just finishing up the Morrison research, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. I wanted to have everything ready for tomorrow's meeting. Daniel frowned, and she noticed the exhaustion in his eyes. The meeting isn't until Thursday. It's only Tuesday. I know, Emma stopped, realizing how ridiculous she sounded. The truth was, she'd been staying late every night, partly because she was genuinely passionate about her work, but mostly because these quiet evening hours were the only time she could be near him, without the constant buzz of office activity, reminding her of all the reasons she shouldn't feel this way. Emma. Daniel's voice was softer now, and he pulled up a chair beside her desk. Can I ask you something? Her heart began to race. Of course. Are you happy here? I mean, really happy? He studied her face with an intensity that made her feel exposed. You're incredibly talented, and I know other firms have been trying to recruit you. If you're staying late because you're not getting enough challenging work during the day, or if you feel like you're not being valued... Emma felt her chest tighten. He thought she was unhappy. He thought she was planning to leave. Daniel, no, she said quickly, then caught herself. I mean, Mr. Sterling. Daniel is fine, he said, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth, especially at midnight when it's just us. The way he said just us made her breath catch. I'm not unhappy, she said, looking directly into his eyes. I've never been more motivated by work in my life. The projects we're working on, the way you trust me with real responsibility. It's everything I hoped for when I started here. Daniel's expression softened, and for a moment, Emma thought she saw something vulnerable in his eyes. I'm glad, he said quietly, because I have to admit, I've been worried about losing you. You're not just good at what you do, Emma. You make everything better. The team, the work, the whole atmosphere of this place. I don't know what I'd do if you left. The words hung in the air between them, loaded with meaning that neither of them dared to fully acknowledge. Emma felt her heart hammering against her ribs. I'm not going anywhere, she whispered. Daniel looked at her for a long moment, and Emma saw him struggle with something internal. Finally, he stood up, running his hand through his hair, a gesture she'd come to recognize as his tell when he was fighting with himself about something. We should both get some sleep, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Emma nodded, but neither of them moved. The office felt charged with unspoken words and suppressed feelings. Daniel, she said softly. Yes? Thank you. For believing in me, for giving me opportunities that most people wouldn't at my level. He turned back to face her, and this time, he didn't try to hide what was in his eyes. Emma, you have no idea how extraordinary you are, do you? The words hit her like a physical force. She stood up slowly, her legs unsteady. I should go, she said, but she didn't move toward her things. Yes, Daniel agreed, but he took a step closer to her instead of backing away. They stood there, barely 3 feet apart, and Emma could feel the weight of 6 months of careful professionalism crumbling around them. This is complicated, Daniel said, his voice rough. Very complicated, Emma agreed. I'm your boss, yes. And you're brilliant and talented, and you have a whole future ahead of you that I shouldn't interfere with. Emma's heart clenched. Is that what you think this would be? Interference? Daniel's composure cracked slightly. I think it would be the most beautiful complication of my life. The confession hung between them like a bridge they were both afraid to cross. Emma felt tears prick her eyes, not from sadness but from the overwhelming relief of finally hearing him say what she'd been feeling for months. I stay late, she said quietly, because these are the only hours when I can stop pretending I don't care about you. Daniel closed his eyes as if her words physically affected him. When he opened them again, Emma saw her own longing reflected back at her. Emma ... I know it's complicated. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this is a bad idea. But I also know that I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. And I can't keep pretending that's not true. Daniel reached out, his fingers barely brushing her cheek. You're shaking. I'm terrified, she admitted. Terrified of what this means. Terrified of what it could cost us both. But I'm more terrified of wondering what if, for the rest of my life. Daniel's thumb traced along her jawline, and Emma felt her breath catch. If we do this, he said softly, everything changes. There's no going back to the way things were. I don't want to go back, Emma whispered. Daniel searched her eyes more time, as if looking for any hint of doubt. When he found none, he leaned down and kissed her with a tenderness that made her knees weak. It was soft and sweet and desperate all at once, filled with months of suppressed longing, and the terrifying hope of something real. When they broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. "Come home with me," Daniel said, his forehead resting against hers. Emma nodded, unable to speak past the emotion in her throat. As they gathered their things in the quiet office, Emma's mind raced. She was crossing a line she'd never crossed before, risking everything for a chance at something that might be extraordinary. But as Daniel took her hand and led her toward the elevator, she knew she was exactly where she belonged. The rain had stopped by the time they reached the parking garage, but Emma barely noticed. All she could think about was the way Daniel's hand felt in hers, warm and sure and right. Neither of them spoke during the drive to his apartment. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, it was charged with anticipation, and the weight of a decision that would change both of their lives forever. Emma woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of rain starting up again outside. For a moment she was disoriented, surrounded by unfamiliar sheets and the faint scent of Daniel's cologne. Then the memories of the night before came flooding back, and she felt a mix of contentment and panic wash over her. They had been careful, gentle with each other. Daniel had made her feel cherished in a way she'd never experienced before. But now, in the soft morning light filtering through his bedroom curtains, reality was setting in. She was in her boss's bed. She could hear Daniel moving around in the kitchen, and the domestic normalcy of it made her chest tight with emotion. This wasn't just attraction or a moment of weakness. What she felt for him was deep and real and absolutely terrifying. Emma slipped out of bed, found one of Daniel's shirts to wear. It hung to her mid-thigh, and she caught herself smiling at her reflection in his bathroom mirror. She looked different, somehow softer, more alive. When she padded into the kitchen, Daniel was standing at the counter with his back to her, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. He was wearing jeans and a grey t-shirt, and his hair was still messy from sleep. The sight made her heart do that fluttering thing again. "Good morning," she said softly. He turned around, and the smile that spread across his face was worth every complication this was going to cause. "Good morning, beautiful." He handed her a mug, and their fingers brushed as she took it. "Sleep well." "Better than I have in months," she admitted. Daniel's smile widened. "Me too." They stood there in his kitchen, drinking coffee and stealing glances at each other like teenagers. And Emma felt a happiness so pure it almost hurt. "So," Daniel said finally, settling against the counter beside her, "we should probably talk about what happens next." Emma's stomach clenched. "Right, work." "Emma, look at me." Daniel set down his mug and turned to face her fully. "I want you to know that last night, it wasn't just about attraction for me. It wasn't just physical. No," she said quietly. "It wasn't for me either." "Good, because I need you to understand something." Daniel's expression grew serious. "I've been thinking about you, about us, for months. And I know that makes me sound like a cliché, the boss who falls for his employee, but it's more than that. You challenge me, you inspire me, you make me want to be better at everything I do." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. "Daniel, I'm not done." He reached for her hands. "I also know that this puts you in an impossible position. You shouldn't have to choose between your career and your personal life. And I never want you to feel like your job security depends on anything other than your incredible talent." Emma's heart swelled with love for this man who understood the complexity of their situation without her having to explain it. "What are you saying?" she asked. "I'm saying we figure this out together. We're careful, we're professional at work, and we don't let anyone question whether your achievements are based on merit, because they absolutely are." Emma nodded, but she could feel the weight of what they were undertaking. "People are going to speculate. They probably already do." "Let them," Daniel said firmly. Anyone who works with you knows how talented you are. And anyone who doesn't isn't worth worrying about. Emma wanted to believe it would be that simple, but she'd seen enough office politics to know better. Still, looking into Daniel's eyes, she found herself willing to try. "Okay," she said. "We figure it out together." Daniel leaned down and kissed her softly. Together, they spent the rest of the morning in a bubble of domestic bliss, sharing breakfast and talking about everything except work. Emma learned that Daniel had wanted to be a teacher before he fell into marketing, that he still played guitar sometimes when he couldn't sleep, and that he'd been single for 2 years because he'd been too focused on building his company to make time for dating. "What about you?" he asked as they sat on his couch, Emma's feet tucked under her. "Serious relationships?" Emma felt her cheeks warm. "Nothing like this. I mean, I've dated, but ... She trailed off, not sure how to explain that she'd never felt safe enough with anyone to be completely vulnerable. "But?" Daniel prompted gently. "But I've never felt with anyone else what I feel with you," she said honestly. "It's like I've been holding my breath for years, and with you I can finally breathe." Daniel's eyes grew soft, and he pulled her closer. "I love that you trust me enough to tell me that. I love that you make me feel safe enough to say it," Emma replied. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, Emma's head on Daniel's shoulder, both of them acutely aware that they had to return to reality soon. Finally, Daniel spoke. "I have to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." Emma lifted her head to look at him. "Okay. Are you worried that people will think your success at the company is because of this? Because of you?" Emma had been trying not to think about exactly that question. "Yes," she said quietly. "I am." Daniel nodded. "I was afraid of that. Emma, I need you to know that everything you've achieved, you've earned. The Henderson campaign, the Morrison account, the client presentations, all of it was your talent. And hard work." "I know that," Emma said. "But will everyone else?" "We'll make sure they do," Daniel said firmly. "And Emma, I've been thinking about promoting you to senior marketing manager. It's a position I created specifically with you in mind, and I was going to offer it to you next week." Emma's heart stopped. "What?" "The salary increase is significant, and you'd be leading your own team. You'd report directly to me, but you'd have real autonomy over your projects." Daniel's expression grew concerned. "But now I'm worried you'll think I'm offering it because of last night." Emma felt a mix of elation and panic. The promotion was everything she dreamed of, but the timing was terrible. "Daniel, she struggled to find the words. "I want that promotion more than anything. But if you offer it to me now, I'll always wonder if I really earned it." Daniel's face fell. "Emma, you have earned it. I've been planning this for weeks. The timing is just terrible." Emma believed him. She could see the sincerity in his eyes. But she also knew how it would look to everyone else. "Maybe we should wait," she said reluctantly. "Give it a few months. Let things settle. Make sure people see that my work speaks for itself." Daniel looked frustrated. "Emma, you're already doing the work of a senior manager. You deserve the recognition and the compensation now." "I know. But I also deserve to earn it without anyone questioning my integrity." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "What if I run the promotion through HR now, but we don't announce it until after the Morrison campaign is complete? That way you'll have another major success under your belt, and the timeline will be clear." Emma considered this. The Morrison campaign was her baby. If she could pull it off successfully, it would be undeniable proof of her capabilities. "Okay," she said finally. "But Daniel, promise me something. Anything. Promise me that if anyone ever questions whether I earned my position, you'll let me prove them wrong. Don't fight my battles for me. Daniel smiled. I promise. Though I have a feeling you're going to be so successful that no one will dare question you. Emma laughed, feeling some of the tension leave her shoulders. I hope you're right. As they prepared to leave for work separately, they'd agreed. Emma felt a mix of excitement and anxiety about the day ahead. Everything was different now, and she wasn't sure she was ready for the complications that were coming. But as Daniel kissed her goodbye at the door, soft and sweet and full of promise, Emma knew she wouldn't change anything about the night before. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. 3 weeks later, Emma stood in the conference room presenting the Morrison campaign to their biggest client, her heart pounding with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. The past few weeks had been a careful dance of professionalism and stolen glances, of late-night strategy sessions that sometimes ended with gentle kisses in empty hallways, and of trying to prove to herself and everyone else that she was more than capable of handling increased responsibility. The Morrison account was worth over $2 million, and Emma had spent months developing a comprehensive rebranding strategy that would revolutionize how their luxury hotels were perceived in the market. As she clicked through her presentation slides, she could feel Daniel's pride radiating from his seat at the conference table, though his expression remained carefully neutral. As you can see, Emma said, her voice steady despite her racing pulse, our consumer research indicates that luxury travelers are increasingly seeking authentic, localized experiences. Your current branding, while elegant, doesn't capture the unique character of each property. Richard Morrison, the silver-haired CEO, leaned forward with interest. Go on. Emma launched into the detailed strategy she developed, explaining how they would create individual brand identities for each hotel while maintaining an overarching luxury aesthetic. She'd spent countless hours researching each property, visiting them personally, and developing campaigns that would speak to both the property's histories and their future potential. The Park Avenue property, for example, Emma continued, has a rich literary history. We propose partnering with local authors for reading series, creating a signature cocktail menu inspired by famous novels, and designing rooms that tell stories. She watched as the Morrison team exchanged impressed glances, but it was Daniel's barely concealed smile that gave her the confidence to continue. The financial projections, Emma said, clicking to her final slides, show an estimated 30% increase in bookings within the first year, with particularly strong growth in the millennial luxury market segment. When she finished, the room was quiet for a moment. Then Richard Morrison began to clap, and the rest of his team joined in. Ms. Chun, he said, standing to shake her hand. This is exactly what we were hoping to see. The strategy is innovative, well-researched, and perfectly aligned with our vision for the future of our brand. Emma felt a rush of pure triumph. She'd done it. She'd proven herself on the biggest stage possible. We'd like to move forward with the full campaign, Morrison continued, and we'd like Ms. Chun to lead the implementation personally. After the clients left, Emma found herself alone in the conference room with Daniel. The rest of the team had gone to celebrate, but Daniel had lingered, ostensibly to clean up the presentation materials. Emma, he said quietly, that was extraordinary. You were extraordinary. Emma felt her cheeks warm. Thank you. I couldn't have done it without your support. Don't sell yourself short, Daniel said, moving closer. That presentation was all you. Your research, your creativity, your vision. Emma looked into his eyes and saw not just professional pride, but personal admiration and something deeper that made her heart race. Daniel, she said softly, I think we can announce the promotion. Now. He smiled, and Emma realized she'd never seen him look so happy. Are you sure? I'm sure. I've proven myself and I'm ready for the next challenge. Daniel nodded. I'll talk to HR first thing tomorrow morning. And Emma, I want you to know that I'm proud of you, not just as your boss, but as someone who cares about you deeply. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. I care about you too. More than I probably should. There's no should about it, Daniel said gently. What we have is real and it's worth fighting for. Emma nodded, but she could see the concern in his eyes. They both knew that announcing her promotion would bring scrutiny, questions, and possibly some ugly rumors. But they also knew that hiding their relationship wasn't sustainable long-term. We'll figure it out, Emma said, echoing his words from weeks earlier. Together, Daniel agreed. The next morning, Emma arrived at work to find an email from HR requesting a meeting. Her stomach clenched with nervousness, but when she saw Daniel's encouraging smile across the office, she felt her confidence return. The meeting was straightforward, a review of her new role, salary, and responsibilities. Sarah from HR explained that the promotion had been in the works for months, and Emma's successful Morrison presentation had simply confirmed what everyone already knew. She was ready for senior management. We'll announce it in this afternoon's all-hands meeting, Sarah said. Congratulations, Emma. You've earned this. Emma thanked her and walked back to her desk, her mind racing. In a few hours, everything would be official. She'd be Daniel's equal in many ways, which would make their relationship less complicated from a corporate standpoint. But it would also mean increased scrutiny and responsibility. The afternoon meeting was packed with the entire company. Emma sat in the front row, her palms sweating as Daniel took the podium. As you all know, he began, the Morrison campaign has been one of our most ambitious projects this year. I'm pleased to announce that not only have we won the account, that we've secured a 3-year partnership worth over $6 million. The room erupted in applause. Emma felt her chest swell with pride, not just for herself, but for the entire team that had supported the project. This success, Daniel continued, is largely due to the exceptional work of Emma Chum, who led the campaign development and delivered a presentation that impressed even our most demanding client. Emma felt all eyes turned to her, and she managed a gracious smile despite her racing heart. Effective immediately, Daniel said, Emma will be promoted to Senior Marketing Manager, with full responsibility for the Morrison account and leadership of our new specialized campaigns team. The applause was genuine and enthusiastic. Emma saw genuine happiness on her colleagues' faces, and she felt a rush of relief. They were celebrating her success, not questioning it. After the meeting, Emma was surrounded by congratulations and handshakes. Her colleagues seemed genuinely pleased for her, and several mentioned specific projects where her input had been valuable. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt like she could breathe easily. It wasn't until she was leaving the building that evening that she heard the whisper that made her blood run cold. I'm just saying the timing is suspicious, a voice said behind her. New girl. Promotes her after 8 months, and she's half his age. Emma froze, her hand on the parking garage door. She recognized the voice Janet from accounting, who'd been with the company for 15 years and had never been promoted beyond her current role. Maybe she's just good at her job, another voice said uncomfortably. Maybe, Janet replied. Or maybe she's good at other things too. Emma felt like she'd been slapped. She pushed through the door and walked quickly to her car, her hands shaking as she fumbled with her keys. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of. Despite her success, despite the Morrison campaign, despite months of proving herself, there would always be people who questioned whether she'd earned her position. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Dinner tonight. I want to celebrate your success properly. Emma stared at the message, her heart torn between the happiness she felt with Daniel and the fear of what their relationship might cost her professionally. She typed back, "We need to talk." Emma sat across from Daniel in a quiet corner booth at their favorite restaurant, her untouched wine glass catching the candlelight. The celebratory dinner had turned somber the moment she told him about the conversation she'd overheard in the parking garage. "Emma, you can't let gossip from someone who's bitter about her own lack of advancement affect you," Daniel said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Janet has been passed over for promotion 3 times because she does the bare minimum and complains about everything." "But that's not the point," Emma said quietly. "The point is that no matter what I accomplish, there will always be people who think I'm sleeping my way to the top." Daniel's jaw clenched. "Then let them think that. You know the truth, I know. The truth. And anyone who matters knows the truth." Emma looked down at her hands. "Do they, though? Daniel, we've been careful, but we haven't been invisible. People have noticed the way we look at each other, the way we work together. And now, with the promotion coming so soon after She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. "After we what?" Daniel asked gently. "After we fell in love?" Emma's breath caught. It was the first time either of them had used that word, and hearing it made her heart race even as it broke her. "Little. Yes," she whispered. "After we fell in love." Daniel reached across the table and took her hand. "Emma, I love you. I love your mind, your passion, your integrity. I love the way you make me want to be better at everything I do. And I love that you're brave enough to go after what you want, even when it's scary." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. "I love you too. That's what makes this so hard." "Makes what so hard?" Emma took a shaky breath. "I've been thinking about this all afternoon. About what's best for both of us. For the company. For my career." Daniel's expression grew wary. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we should take a step back. Maybe we should keep things professional for a while. Until the promotion is old news and people have other things to talk about." Daniel's face fell. "Emma, no. We can't put our relationship on hold because of office gossip." "It's not just gossip," Emma said, her voice cracking. "It's my reputation, my career, everything I've worked for." "And what about what we have?" Daniel asked, his voice raw. "What about the fact that I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you?" Emma's tears spilled over. "That's what makes this so impossible. I love you, Daniel. I love you more than I've ever loved anyone. But I also love my work, and I love the person I am when I'm succeeding on my own merits." Daniel was quiet for a long moment, and Emma could see him struggling with emotions he was trying to keep in check. "So what are you suggesting?" he asked finally. "I don't know," Emma admitted. "Maybe I should look for another job. Maybe I should transfer to a different department. Maybe we should just wait. Wait for what? For people to stop talking? For your career to be so established that no one can question it? Emma, there will always be people who try to diminish your success. You can't live your life trying to please them." Emma knew he was right, but she also knew that her reputation mattered in ways that were hard to explain to someone who'd never had to fight for recognition the way she had. "I just need some time to think," she said softly. "To figure out how to handle this." Daniel nodded reluctantly. "Okay. But Emma, I want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. Whatever you decide, however long you need, I'll be here." Emma's heart broke a little more. "You might meet someone else. Someone who doesn't come with all these complications." "I don't want someone else," Daniel said firmly. "I want you. All of you, including the complications." They sat in silence. For a moment, both of them grappling with the impossibility of their situation. Can I ask you something? Daniel said finally. Of course. If we had met somewhere else, under different circumstances, would you have any doubts about us? Emma thought about it honestly. No, I wouldn't have any doubts at all. Then don't let circumstances we can't control dictate what we do about feelings we can't change. Emma looked into his eyes and saw her own love reflected back at her. She wanted to throw caution to the wind, to choose love over fear, to trust that everything would work out. But she also knew that the world wasn't always fair, especially to women who were trying to prove themselves in male-dominated industries. I need to think about this, she said again. Daniel nodded. I understand. But Emma, while you're thinking, remember that the people who matter, your colleagues, your clients, anyone who's seen your work, they know who you are. They know what you're capable of. Don't let the fear of what small-minded people might think keep you from being happy. Emma's phone buzzed with a text message. She glanced at it and felt her heart sink further. It was from her best friend Sarah, who worked at a competing firm. Heard about your promotion. Drinks this weekend to celebrate. Also, heard through the grapevine that you and your boss are a thing. Girl, be careful. You know how this industry talks. Emma showed Daniel the message, and she watched his face grow grim. It's already spreading, she said quietly. People in other companies are talking about us. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Emma, I want to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Okay. Are you ashamed of what we have? The question hit Emma like a physical blow. No. Daniel, no. I'm not ashamed. I'm proud of what we have. I'm proud of how you make me feel, how you support me, how you believe in me. Then why are we talking about hiding it? Emma struggled to find the words. Because I'm scared. I'm scared that people will only see me as your girlfriend instead of as a capable professional. I'm scared that every success I have will be questioned. I'm scared that I'll never know if I'm truly good enough on my own. Daniel reached across the table and cupped her face in his hands. Emma, you are more than good enough. You are extraordinary. And anyone who can't see that isn't worth your time or energy. Emma leaned into his touch, feeling the familiar comfort of his presence. I want to believe that. Then believe it. Believe in yourself the way I believe in you. The way your clients believe in you. The way your team believes in you. Emma closed her eyes, trying to quiet the voices of doubt and fear in her head. When she opened them again, Daniel was watching her with an expression of such love and faith that it took her breath away. I love you, she said softly. I love you too. More than I ever thought possible. Emma made a decision in that moment, sitting in that restaurant with the man she loved looking at her, like she was the most precious thing in the world. She decided to stop letting fear make her choices for her. Okay, she said. Okay? Okay, let's do this. Let's be together, openly and honestly. Let's let our work speak for itself and trust that the people who matter will see the truth. Daniel's smile was radiant. Are you sure? I'm sure. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of hiding how I feel about you. And I'm tired of letting other people's opinions dictate my choices. Daniel leaned across the table and kissed her softly, and Emma felt like she was finally coming home. So what now? She asked. Now we go back to work tomorrow, and we're professional and excellent at what we do. And if people want to gossip, let them. Our relationship is nobody's business but ours. Emma nodded, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in weeks. And if the gossip gets bad, then we deal with it together. But Emma, I have a feeling that once people see how happy and successful we both are, the gossip will die down on its own. Emma hoped he was right. But even if he wasn't, she was tired of living in fear. She was ready to fight for what she wanted. both personally and professionally. As they left the restaurant hand in hand, Emma felt a sense of resolution that had been missing for weeks. She was taking a risk, but it was a risk worth taking. Because what she and Daniel had was real, and it was worth fighting for. The next morning, Emma walked into the office with her head held high, ready to face whatever challenges came her way. She had a promotion to celebrate, a team to lead, and a relationship to navigate. It wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in her life, she felt like she was exactly where she belonged. And when Daniel smiled at her across the conference room during their morning meeting, Emma smiled back without trying to hide it. She was done pretending that loving him was something to be ashamed of. She was ready to prove that she could be both successful and happy, both professional and in love. The future was uncertain, but Emma Chen was ready for whatever came next. Emma stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her new office, watching the city come alive in the early morning light. The Morrison campaign had been such a success that the company had moved to a larger space, and Emma's promotion to senior marketing manager had come with a corner office and a team of 5 talented coordinators who looked to her for guidance and inspiration. 6 months ago, she'd been terrified of what people would think. Now, she barely gave the gossip a second thought. The whispers had died down after the Morrison hotels reported a 43% increase in bookings, and 3 more luxury chains had signed with Sterling and Associates specifically requesting. Emma's team. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. "Lunch today? I have something to ask you." Emma smiled, her heart doing that familiar flutter. 6 months of being together openly had only deepened their connection. They'd weathered the initial storm of speculation, proved their professionalism beyond doubt, and built something beautiful together. "Of course," she texted back. "Your office or mine?" "Actually, I was thinking somewhere more private. The rooftop garden?" Emma's curiosity was piqued. The rooftop garden was where they'd shared their first official date as a couple. Back when they decided to stop hiding their relationship. It held special meaning for both of them. "Perfect. See you at noon." Emma spent the morning reviewing proposals from her team, marveling at how natural leadership felt when you were truly passionate about the work. She'd been worried about managing people, but it turned out that inspiring others came naturally. When you genuinely cared about their success. At noon, she took the elevator to the rooftop, her heels clicking against the concrete as she walked toward the garden area. Daniel was already there, standing by the edge with his back to her, looking out over the city. "Hey," she said softly as she approached. He turned, and Emma's breath caught. He looked nervous, which was unlike him. Daniel was always confident, always in control. "Hey yourself," he said, his voice slightly strained. "Thanks for meeting me." Emma studied his face, noting the tension in his shoulders, the way he kept running his hand through his hair. "Daniel, what's wrong? You look like you're about to jump off this building." He laughed, but it sounded forced. "Not jump off. More like ... jump into something." Before Emma could ask what he meant, Daniel dropped to one knee. Emma's heart stopped. Completely stopped. "Emma Chen," Daniel said, his voice steadier now. "6 months ago, you asked me what would happen if we took this leap together. And I told you we'd figure it out as we went." Emma's hands flew to her mouth, tears already starting to blur her vision. "Well," Daniel continued, reaching into his jacket pocket, "I think I figured out what I want to happen next." He pulled out a small velvet box, and Emma felt her knees go weak. "Emma, you are the most extraordinary woman I've ever known. You're brilliant, passionate, brave, and kind. You make me want to be better at everything I do. You challenge me, inspire me, and make me laugh even when I'm having the worst day." Emma was crying now, unable to speak past the emotion in her throat. I love how you fight for what you believe in. I love how you never give up on your dreams. I love how you made me brave enough to fight for us when everything seemed impossible. Daniel opened the box, revealing a stunning vintage ring with a brilliant round diamond surrounded by smaller stones in an intricate Art Deco setting. It was classic and elegant, but with unique details that made it special, just like Emma. Emma, will you marry me? Emma stared at the ring, then at Daniel's face, then back at the ring. Her mind was spinning, her heart racing, her entire world tilting on its axis. Daniel, she whispered, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life, he said firmly. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to celebrate your successes and support you through your challenges. I want to build a life with you that's as beautiful and complicated and wonderful as what we have right now. Emma looked down at him. This man who had seen her at her most vulnerable and loved her anyway, who had believed in her when she doubted herself, who had been willing to risk everything for a chance at something real. Yes, she said softly. Then louder, yes, Daniel, of course yes. Daniel's face broke into the most beautiful smile Emma had ever seen. He slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, and stood up to kiss her with a passion that made her forget they were standing on a rooftop in the middle of the business district. When they broke apart, both of them were crying. I love you, Emma said, admiring the ring on her finger. I love you so much it scares me sometimes. Good, Daniel said, pulling her close, because I plan to spend the rest of my life making sure you never have to be scared of anything else. Emma laughed, feeling giddy with happiness. What will people say now? She slept with her boss, got promoted, and now she's marrying him. Let them say whatever they want, Daniel said, spinning her around. We know our story. We know that you earned every success through your own incredible talent. We know that. I fell in love with your mind before I fell in love with your heart. And we know that what we have is real. Emma nodded, feeling a sense of completion she'd never experienced before. The scared, uncertain woman who had stayed late in the office that night 6 months ago felt like a different person. This Emma was confident, successful, and deeply loved. So, she said, grinning up at her fiancé, I guess this means I really will be sleeping with my boss for the rest of my life. Daniel laughed, the sound rich and joyful. I guess it does. Is that a problem? Emma stood on her tiptoes and kissed him again, tasting forever in the sweetness of his lips. Not even a little bit, she whispered against his mouth dot as they stood there on the rooftop, holding each other and watching the city spread out below them. Emma realized that sometimes the biggest risks led to the most beautiful rewards. She had been terrified of what people would think, of what loving Daniel might cost her. But in the end, loving him had made her braver, stronger, and more successful than she'd ever imagined possible. The gossip had died down, but their love had only grown stronger. And now, as she looked at the ring sparkling on her finger, Emma knew that their story was just beginning. She had slept with her boss, gotten promoted, and now she was going to marry him. And she couldn't be happier about any of it. Sometimes, Emma thought as Daniel took her hand and led her back toward the elevator, the most beautiful love stories were the ones that began with the courage to take a leap of faith. And sometimes, when you were brave enough to jump, you discovered that you'd been ready to fly all along. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities and promises, and Emma Chen had never felt more ready to embrace whatever came next. Because she wasn't facing it alone anymore. She was facing it with the man who loved her exactly as she was, and who would support her in becoming everything she was meant to be. And that, Emma thought as the elevator carried them back down to their new life together, was the most beautiful promotion of all.